PowerPlayChess, brought to you in association with Kagi. I'd like to show you another game that won a Best Game prize in the World Amateur Championship, held on the Greek island of Kos in May. And this features, appropriately enough, another Greek gift sacrifice. They're fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Quick word about these ACO events, that's the Amateur Chess Organisation, that run events in May on the Greek island of Kos and in October on the Greek island of Crete. These are wonderful events. They combine a holiday with a chess tournament. There's a really nice friendly atmosphere. There are blitz tournaments as well as the main events. There are grandmaster lectures and analysis from yours truly and Zigor Tlanko and Spiridon Skembris. They're great fun. I cannot recommend them highly enough. There still might be a few spots available for Crete, but you better get in quickly. And if you want the early bird discount for the Kos tournament next May, then check out their website. I'll put details in the video description and in the comments as well. Right, on with this game. So this was played between Oliver Russ and Holger Kaesemann, both from Germany. E4. Oh, I should say this game was selected by Zigor Tlanko, who himself is a fierce attacking player. So black plays this queenside fianchetto. That's the Owen's defence. I think there was a Reverend Owen in the 19th century in England who gave his name to this opening. Knight c3. Well, why not just claim the centre? It can't be bad for white. And here I don't see anything wrong with bringing a piece out. But white very carefully played a3, which does stop the bishop coming to b4. Then again, I wouldn't be worried about that bishop coming to b4. Now I think black's okay now. Bishop d3 protects the pawn. c5. Yeah, I think black does well to strike out immediately at white's centre. D takes c5, bishop takes. I mean, it seems to me just from the number of pieces developed that black should be all right in this position. But this is an important moment in the game. Just have a think. How would you play with black in this position? Black to play. I'll have a little drink. You have a little think. Black to play. What would you do here? Well, I hope you didn't play castles. That was the move played in the game, but that's inadvisable. It's actually quite a tricky position. It would be nice to castle, but there's a tactical problem. I'd also like to do something about that pawn coming to e5. You know, that could be very, very dangerous, followed by perhaps a knight e4 or something. But the problem is d6 looks a bit dodgy, because that bishop is running short of squares. Don't like that. What about putting the bishop back to e7? Well, again, this move e5. Yeah, I don't really want that knight pushed around. Okay, what about preventing e5 with queen c7? Well, I don't want to allow this possibility. However, there is a good move here, and that's queen b8. This is the kind of move that's seen very often in the Sicilian and the hedgehog related structure. So the queen is guarding the e5 square, and this diagonal can be very important. Let me show you a typical trick here. So queen e2, knight g4 I think is a good move. If h3, then I'm sure you've seen that trick before. If knight takes knight, then queen h2 mate, so white is in massive trouble. But even after a move like g3, you know, this knight is going to hop back here at some point. I think black is absolutely fine. So I think queen b8 is a good move in this position. And black is going to castle on the next turn, or perhaps even play knight g4. But castles kingside is not the best move, unfortunately. I think e5 is somehow a very natural move, pushing the knight away and opening up the diagonal for the bishop. Now I'm going to return to this position at the end of the game, because actually it's really fascinating to see some of the details of this Greek gift sacrifice. I'm not giving too much away when I'm talking about this, because after knight g4, I think it's pretty clear what's going to happen. Bishop h7 check, but it's always very satisfying to play, yes, the Greek gift, the bishop takes h7 move. Now black ducked with king h8. I think the best chance is to take this, actually. Yes, white is winning a pawn. It's too risky for black to take this. Queen h4 is too much. But if black plays f6, it's actually not quite as clear as one would wish. Yes, if we count up the pawns, white is a pawn up. White is definitely better. But this is a monster piece on b7. Doesn't have an opponent, doesn't have a light square bishop. And because the queen is over on the king side, then black is not going to be checkmated here. Yes, white is better, you know, after, for example, this move. But it's not so clear. White still has to be careful there. So I think that was black's best. But after king h8, well, white is a clear pawn up, and the king isn't altogether secure. One important thing is if knight takes, then of course queen h5 check will lead to a swift checkmate. And f5 in this case, not so great. I think that really does look good for white. So g6 was played, shutting out the bishop, but that is a bit grim because these dart squares are terribly weak. I mean, in particular f6. So let's see how white exploited that. Well, first of all, bishop g5. Good move. Let's get that bishop in. So really black had to bring the bishop back. Otherwise the bishop would find its way to f6. So that was exchanged. Now this one needs protecting, so queen e2, good move. Now I like the way that white plays this now. Yeah, white's a pawn up, but you still need to do something with it. You need to keep the initiative, and you know, if you're not careful, then you know black will fight back here. These pieces are pretty good. So queen e4, good move. Attacking the knight and playing the queen over. Of course, you don't want to remain on e4. The queen nudges over to these dark squares. I think this is a really good idea. You want to get your queen in the zone near to the king. It also means your king is less likely to come under fire. Rook h8. So black is seeking counterplay. Queen g3, good move. Lining up against the king and, you know, discouraging the f-pawn from moving. Knight f5. Okay. Good to take that knight off. It's too active. So black has to recapture with the pawn, and then knight d5. So this knight hops in and is able to look at that nice square on f6 as well. Rook d1, very nice. You have to bring all your pieces into the game, so this looks good. Knight e7, I think black would desperately like to exchange off that lovely knight, but no. It sinks in on f6, so I think everything has worked out beautifully. Rook d6 on white's pieces just flowing now. This is great. Dare I say it? Yes, split rooks. Just look at the difference between the two positions. White's rooks powerfully lined up on the d-file. Black's rooks hopelessly split, not working together. I mean, in fact, all white's pieces are just wonderfully placed. But how do you break through? Still got to find a way in. I mean, there are quite a few things you could try here. But there's no panic. You don't need to rush this one. c4, good move. So, simple idea. Advance the b pawn, put it on b5, push the bishop, and then rook takes pawn, and black is collapsing. So black wants to somehow force the issue and plays the knight back to g8. But then knight takes, and e6 is a very sweet breakthrough. There's no need to go for this. We can just crash through straight away, exploiting the pin here, and of course there's a problem with g6 as well. So white is crashing through. Knight e5 and rook takes g6, queen g5, yeah, closing in for the kill, and white did this very efficiently, check, and knight takes c6. That is a pin. So understandably black decided to resign at this point. Nice Greek gift, not too complicated, but yeah, nice attack, and I think very efficiently played after that. I really like the way that Oliver used all his pieces in the attack. That's, you know, really efficient and the best way to crack black. I want to return to this position after e5. Now, black made the best move here, knight g4. But I was curious to see what would happen after, let's say, knight e8. Well, this is a classic Greek gift situation. It's possible to take, particularly as there's a traffic jam of pieces here on the 8th rank. So in these Greek gift type positions, there's always a choice. Well, there's usually a choice, I should say. Either the king goes back to g8 or it steps forward to g6. So you have to really consider both these options. I mean, usually these squares, well, you can see that they lose immediately. Well, in fact, because this knight stands on e8, in fact, we can see that this loses instantly because there is simply no escape for the king. You can't even move the rook away. So there's only one move to consider, king g6, and this is where we have to stop. And usually there are three methods of attacking that king on g6. So one method is to play the queen to g4. Another method is to check the king along this diagonal, usually from d3. And the other method is to play the pawn to h4, looking to play h5 check. Now, usually one of these is good enough to win, but, well, you have to work out which is best. So I'll leave that to you now. Time for me to have another slurp of tea. Cheers. Time for you to have another think. Which of those attacking ideas is best? Bit of calculation required. Cheers. You can always pause the video. Calculation takes time. Well, in this case, queen g4 isn't very good because of knight takes e5. Black gains a tempo. Likewise, h4 isn't the best because of knight takes e5, and that gives the king an escape square on f6, and possibly it can fall back to e7. The best move undoubtedly is queen d3 check, so that if the king steps over, well, it's going to be mate. So black is forced to play f5. Now again, very typical situation where you have to choose between en passant or queen g3. Well, I mean, I'll leave you to work out the details, but basically black is still in with a shout in that position. Queen g3 is by far the best because it keeps that king just trapped. So Can't move to f6. Still can't fall back on these. And there's an immediate threat of a discovered check. And then you take the queen. So the queen has to move. And again, very interesting position, very typical. How do you follow up now? There's no immediate win, actually. And if you take material too early, then that is absolutely not clear. That's cashing in too early. Usually, the right method here is to bring another piece into the attack. In fact, we saw that with, if you remember the game I showed about a week ago, another best game prize, Katharina Koschel, brought more pieces into the attack. And this is the same here, knight e2. Hopping around to that beautiful f4 square, and yeah, mate is threatened basically. So black has to take on e5. Again, be careful. If you cash in too quickly, in fact, black has chances to survive in this position, incredibly. It's not over yet. So again, just keep that king bottled in. Knight f4 check. Is the king running away? Well, not really. You can see it can't go anywhere from there. Now, white can check the king back, but okay, we want more than that. So how do we make progress here? It's really instructive. Once again, we bring another piece into play. And this bishop is desperate to get into the game. b4. So we want to put the bishop on this diagonal. If bishop d4, then c3 actually just wins the piece. So once you've got one piece back, well, you still have the attack. That's winning. Okay, so what about bishop d6? Bishop b2. I mean, this is so strong. Wow. The king is just getting shot from both sides here. Okay, let's say g6. Rook d1, bring another piece in. Bishop goes back. Queen h4. I mean, black is cracking in this position. This is just too much. It's going to be some nasty trick there. Or if king g7. Okay, now we can crack in. And that knight is dropping. And knight g6. And black is completely collapsing in that position. There you go. Another Greek gift sacrifice and another kind of Greek gift. And they're all slightly different, but there are certain themes that recur that are really useful to know. So I think this is one typical situation where you have to choose between usually these three options, and very often don't cash in too early but bring another piece into the attack. So, congratulations to Oliver Russ on winning one of the best game prizes, and I hope you all enjoyed that.